Hey guys, so this video I'm going to chat about the hip replacement I had and the eradication of PVNS. What I did is I actually found an old blog of mine that I had written, and it's pretty much self-explanatory, and I think it'll keep me on track and to the point and won't waste your time. So I'm going to read it out from the moment I checked into hospital. I checked into hospital the night before the big day. Do you know how weird it is to sleep in a hospital bed when you aren't really injured? It's weird and the noises are creepy. I didn't sleep a wink. I stared at the ceiling all night, waiting for 6 a.m. to come around, where the nurse came in and asked me to have my final shower before I put on my sexy gown. I'm wheeled down to theatre and waiting in pre-op. I'm the first one in, so it's quiet and I'm the only bed waiting. Passing the minutes, which seemed like hours, by watching each and every shuffled step of the covered feet of nurses and doctors. Their funky headwear and colourful clothes, I guess it did make me feel a little bit better. I'm given a red wristband to denote that I'm allergic to morphine. I was given morphine for pain relief in the last operation, and my skin practically crawled off me, so noted not to have it again. Pethidine it is for me this time. I remember speaking to the anaesthetist and then counting down from 10 once I was lying on the cold skinny table in the theatre room. Next thing I know, I'm in pain, I'm thirsty and in recovery. My hip had been replaced. They had dislocated the joint and placed a small frozen crystal that was 150 degrees Celsius in my socket cup. What this did was then freeze and kill the PVNS in the immediate joint, as well as reach a temperature of minus 40 degrees Celsius on the inside of my pelvic wall. This was in case the PVNS had broken through to my soft tissue on the inside of my pelvis that could be killed before doing any more damage. And by the way, it never had broke through. So I was so lucky to have my PVNS contained in my hip. My lady parts were protected. The freezing meant I had to have a total hip replacement. My cartilage was now destroyed, and mechanically they had to put me back together again. They had to work like angels to rebuild what the PVNS had destroyed, and they had succeeded. They cut off the top of my femur, which was practically rotten with PVNS. They then drilled a shaft down my femur into my thigh bone, where here the stem was fitted and locked in. Attached to the top of my brand new stem, my new titanium neck was screwed in. This would then hold my ceramic ball, which would match my ceramic lined titanium cup. Before they put in my socket cup, however, my pelvis had to be patched up due to being so destroyed by the PVNS. After removing the spare bone from the back of my left hip, everyone has spare bone there, they donated my own bone to my pelvis, like repairing a hole in the wall. Once set, the socket was fitted. 5 pieces of foreign material later, and my hip was one again. 11 frozen sections were taken in and around my joint during theatre, all of which came back clear of PVNS. 80 dissolvable stitches locked out the PVNS to the outside world, and I was now protected and PVNS free of this bone-eating monster. So yeah guys, I am PVNS free because of this cryosurgery. I was in hospital for a week, absolutely high on pethidine, hallucinating, thinking Dawson from Dawson's Creek. Do you remember that show? Was being chased around by a giant cockroach. I only wish that iPhones were around 10 years ago, and even Facebook. Some funny shit would have been filmed. 2 days later, my drain was removed from my drip came out, and Digesics became my painkiller of choice. Whilst in hospital, I was visited by the in-house doctor to see if I was willing to participate in an anonymous trial. The trial was regarding a selection of patients receiving an injection. Some of the injections contained a drug which would assist bone density, and some would receive saline, or placebo. It was proven to have worked successfully on protecting a cancer patient's bone density. Now they wanted to see if it would assist hip replacement patients' bone density. The side effects were severe nausea, but nothing dangerous. Mum and Dad had asked that I would participate, but only if I could make sure I could get the trial drug. They did, and the nausea set in. By this stage, I was 5 days in and over it. I was fatigued, tired, sore, and bored. Mentally, I was suffering. I wanted to go home. On the 6th day, I demanded I go home. I had had enough, silly of me, because I had had a turn of high fevers and restless sleep the first night I got home. In the end, it was just a reaction to the trial drug, but really I should have stayed in hospital just for one more night. I can't really remember, but my recovery was slow but not very painful. I was on crutches for about 6 weeks, bearing weight in hospital and hobbling around without my crutches around two weeks post-op. I know, I was very naughty. The old pain was a thing of the past. No wonder people rave on about how fantastic total hip replacements are. Come February, 3 months post-op, I started my studies at TAFE College and was on the hunt for a job in the events industry. I was only 19 at the time, so my career was only just launching. By March, I had landed my first full-time job in the industry. I was now successful in my life and the age of 20 resumed. Having a hip replacement is not as scary as you think. It is life-changing, and in my case was absolutely necessary. If I had even waited 1 more week, it would have been disastrous. I wonder how I am going to feel in another 20 years from now. So I guess that was really cool to read back. I mean, that's the structured side of the story and having the PVNS removed. Cryosurgery, ultimately it did freeze the PVNS in its microscopic level. That was done in 2001. It's now 2017, so 16 years later I am still PVNS free. As far as I'm concerned, I'm cured of it. I've never had any issues with regards to PVNS. I will do future videos about the replacement of my total hip replacement. I had to have it all redone 10 years after it was implanted. I have had a bit of bursitis in my knee, and I have current tendonitis in my hip. But with regards to PVNS, I'm free, and I can only hope that others out there are also getting cured of this horrible bone-eating monster, something that is so painful and so scary to deal with when you don't know if you're ever going to be free of it. So my thoughts are with everybody who's suffering. My thoughts are with everybody who have it in joints that may not be as easy to get to, such as the hip. People who have it in their ankles. There's so many bones in your feet and your ankles that it could be a little bit harder to get rid of. So I am thinking of you all, but best of luck. I hope that I give you some sort of hope and inspiration that anything is possible. You can do it. And just finally, I'm going to end this video with a few photos, so graphic warning content, but I'm going to leave you with a few photos of what the bone looked like when they took it out of me and what the tumour had done to the top of my femur. And if I have any other photos that I find, I'll put them up as well. So I'll leave you with this. Please don't be eating when you watch it because it's pretty gross. Bye for now.